Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Kallen Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us today for our next ISU Dining Nutritional Download. Like I said, my name is Kallen. I'm the registered dietitian here on campus with ISU Dining. On here, we also have my student nutrition assistant, Sierra, who's on the call. And so kind of what we're doing here is almost every month, we're going to be having a short presentation kind of on some sort of nutrition or wellness related topic. And then Sierra will be monitoring our chat box as well as the Q&A box, depending on whichever one pops up for you. And then we'll have kind of an open question and answer chat afterwards with any questions that you have over the material that we went through during the presentation, or if there's anything else that you want to dive in a little bit more on. So thank you so much for joining us today. And then know that all of these presentations are recorded and they are saved and can be referenced later on the ISU Dining website, then underneath the nutrition tab. So today, next week is study week, the week after is finals. So we're all thinking about summer and warm weather and break from school and everything. So today we are really focusing on nourishing your body and making your summer flourish. So thanks so much for joining us today. Kind of like what I said, thanks for joining us. My name is Kallen Anderson. I'm the registered dietitian with ISU Dining. In this role, I work with all students who have meal plans on campus, whether that's navigating the dining halls because they're a little hard to navigate sometimes when you're new, to helping students with food allergies manage, helping students with different dietary preferences, as well as providing nutrition counseling to all of our students who have meal plans, who maybe struggle with a condition that they need some help managing. And that includes eating disorders, digestive related concerns, sometimes diabetes, whatever it might be. So my job here is really to support you all in making sure that you can maximize your meal plan as much as possible and make sure that the food that we have on campus is able to nourish you as much as possible as well. Okay, so today, kind of what I mentioned, we're going to be focusing on summer because it's awesome and coming up really soon here. So when we're thinking of summer, we really need to focus more on hydration. We're also going to be talking about summer eating and how that relates to our summer bodies, as well as how we can move those summer bodies with some summer movement. To start off, I always like to focus on kind of my philosophies, and I have three main ones here that build the foundation for how I work with students here on campus as a dietitian. So I believe that all foods fit in a balanced diet, and I show that on my Instagram account, ISU Dining RD, for what my meals look like in our dining halls. Today for lunch even, I had the mac and cheese bar over at Friley Windows. It was super delicious and super, super good. And so I really firmly believe that all foods do fit, and I help all of you to better understand what that means and how to do it best for you. I also believe that health is cumulative and that some of the individual behaviors that you start having now and developing now while in college will become some of those habits that you have once you graduate, or when you're in your first job, or when you're in your 30s or 40s or so on. And so learning some of these things now in your collegiate years best helps set you up for good steps in the future. I also firmly believe that food is meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to taste good, and my job is to help all of you enjoy all of our food a little bit more. Okay, so summer hydration. We all hear, we all know, oh, you need to drink water, but there's a little bit more to that. And so we're going to be talking about that here. So the basics of hydration. Yes, the old tale that you maybe heard in second grade or whatever of 60% or 70% of your body is water. You need to drink it. Yes, That is true. And so really thinking about that, when thinking and going back to maybe high school biology, right? In every single cell of every single living creature, there's that interstitial cell fluid. And so with that fluid, a lot of that is water. So think of every single cell that builds up every single muscle, every single tissue, every single organ, every single other thing in your body. It all needs water. It all needs hydration to really have that fluid that then supports the rest of our entire body and biological systems. So because our body needs so much, there are some recommendations. Again, the approximation is about 8 ounce glasses of water per day. What this kind of looks like from the International Institute of Medicine is about 74 ounces to about 101 ounces per day, if you're thinking of it that way. Know that we do obtain some of this water and some of this fluid from the food that we eat, right? Soups is a great example of a way that we can get fluid from the food that we eat. One other way that is kind of fun to increase or maybe change the flavor of water, because I know that some students might not enjoy the flavor of water as much, is to try different flavored water or try different infused waters. At Seasons Marketplace, they really specialize a little bit more with infused waters, and they have really fun flavors over there just to jazz it up a little bit more. So what are the benefits to this? Really, again, when thinking about all of our biological systems that need that fluid, need that hydration, it's really also to help make sure that we have good, healthy blood volume levels, right? We need our blood to be flowing like it needs to, so that we get nutrients and everything from our heart to our other body parts. And so fluid is a big part of that. We also need hydration to keep our electrolytes balanced. I know that some students have heard of different electrolyte related beverages, and that can definitely help as well. But electrolyte is pretty much just a fancy word for potassium, sodium, and then maybe some other different minerals. And so with hydration, that really helps to make sure that our electrolyte levels, that potassium and that sodium, are balanced out and pretty level so that it can do what it's supposed to inside of our body. Hydration also removes our waste from our body when we go to the bathroom. We also need hydration and water for digestion, so our large and small intestines can really absorb as much nutrients as possible when it's digesting our food. Also helps to lubricate and moisten our tissues and joints. We have natural lubrication in each of our joints, our elbows, our wrists, our shoulders, and all of that requires quite a bit of hydration and therefore water. Water also is really important to maintain a good balanced body temperature and to remain that so we don't get a fever or so that our body temperature doesn't deplete either. So how can you really tell? Oftentimes, a lot of people can tell what thirst feels like for them. And again, it's a little bit different for everyone. Sometimes it's just a sensation, I need to drink water. Sometimes it's your brain telling you, you need to drink water. Sometimes it's actual physical, like having a dry mouth or tongue. Some people, if they have more chronic dehydration, it can lead to some constipation. It can also lead to headaches or migraines or even fatigue. Also, when going to the bathroom, having a darker urine color can be a sign that you might not be drinking enough water. And so if you deal with any of these, make sure that you kind of relook at your water consumption first, because that could be something that might be an easier fix to make sure that you are giving your body the hydration that it needs. Okay, moving on to something a little bit more fun, and that's summer food, summer eating. So we talked about summer beverages with hydration. Now we're talking about summer food with eating. Specifically, when we're thinking of summer, we're thinking of maybe gardens and farmers markets and things like that, eating more seasonally and locally. And so that's really what we're going to be focusing on here. So in the summertime, really kind of striving to eat more seasonal and more local foods. And so sometimes they're grouped together. And so now we're going to separate them out and talk about each of them individually. So eating seasonally means pretty much eating that food that is, or purchasing and consuming that food during the same time that it is harvested. And then locally, eating locally means that you purchase and consume that food in the same geographical area that it's also produced and harvested as well. So when we're thinking seasonal, oh, this picture came out a little bit bigger than I was expecting. But this is a really good reference to have for eating seasonally. So this is the Iowa Fruit and Vegetable Harvest Calendar from the Iowa Department of Ag and Land Stewardship. So this diagram and this chart pretty much shows us a lot of common fruits and vegetables that are produced here in Iowa for when they become ripe and when they become peak for eating time. So a couple of great examples here. Apples. We maybe typically think of apples as in going to apple orchards closer to the fall, September, October. And yes, that's when a lot of those orchards are more open for apple picking and things like that. But they do start about in the middle of July. Some different varieties just become a little bit more ripe quicker than others. In this early springtime, pretty soon those the asparagus stems are going to be popping up, and so asparagus is usually an earlier springtime, earlier summer vegetable that is seasonal here in Iowa. And so really kind of using this diagram, and you can find it on the Iowa Department of Ag website as well. Excuse me. To be able to identify which items and which produce foods are available and produced at different times. This kind of also helps us to recognize what food is freshest at which point during the summertime. And so really thinking about that and eating seasonally can make sure just that you eat a little bit more of the ripest produce this summer. And leading into that, again, eating seasonally, if we're eating it as close to the harvest time as possible, that peak time, that also gives us peak freshness of the food as well as good nutrition and flavor. It's also usually a cost savings to eat seasonally, simply because then it doesn't have to be held over or only being used for the foods that are produced in greenhouses all of the time. For why to purchase locally, it's really to support your local economy, maybe different growers, gardeners, farmers in your local area, and supporting, because usually they have a more seasonal produce as well if purchasing locally. No, that ISU dining, we purchase foods locally. Last year, about 54 tons of food in the dining centers were purchased locally. These are a couple of examples of where we purchase these foods from. A bulk of them do come from right here on campus at the Horticulture Research Center. We get a lot of our onions, green peppers, maybe some basil from the Horticulture Research Center. Our apples come from there, as well as from Deal's Orchard near Jefferson. Dolan Farms is actually the farm, I believe near Muscatine, where quite a bit of the rotisserie chicken and Farley Windows is from. And then, of course, no one can forget Old Capitol Foods is the food company in Iowa City where we get all of our tofu from that we serve here on campus. They produce that tofu in Iowa City, and it's like double the local because they use only Iowa soybeans. So not only are the soybeans local, but also the food is processed locally as well. Really just a neat thing for us to have here on campus. No, we mentioned earlier that when eating seasonally, kind of that peak freshness, but also know that any food that is preserved, meaning canned, frozen, dehydrated, anything like that, is always also picked during its peak freshness and then preserved for later on. Whether that's in the store now, or you can also do this at home if you're interested in. Iowa State University Extension has a program called Preserve the Taste of Summer that teaches consumers how to do their own home food preservation in a safe manner. Again, this can just be a little bit more of a time savings later on during the year, as well as a cost savings. But do know that with food preservation, especially canning items, there is a risk for an increase of the toxin and bacteria Clostridium botulinum, which leads to botulism. And so using approved methods for this food preservation is really important. And that's where this Preserve the Taste of Summer program teaches you how to identify those and how to find appropriate and safe methods for home preservation. So check that program out if you're interested. There's workshops all across the state and free handouts on the ISU Extension and Outreach website. Okay, so summer bodies. Oftentimes I get students around this time of year saying, oh, I want my body to be ready for summer. And so I ask them, what really is a summer body? And because congrats, you already have one. The seasons change for you. There's nothing you have to do for your body to change from a spring body to a summer body. The seasons change for you. You don't have to do anything. Oftentimes our society and this diet culture that we live in give us these unrealistic body appearance ideals. And they help the diet industry that is $1 billion plus industry. They don't help you. And so that's where separating ourselves away from that, you thinking of what can I do to actually help my body, my mind, myself, instead of these unrealistic ideals that frankly don't help you. And sometimes it just helps to really focus on appreciating what your body can physically do, bringing in some self-compassion and some self-confidence. Knowing that our bodies, they take us through every single day right now during this like final study time as we're preparing for summer. Your brains are working extra hard to study all of this material, whether your professor is trying to cram in an extra test or paper, or whether you just have so many finals to really focus on or extra projects. Your body is already doing so much for you. And so focusing on all of that can help to bring some of that self-appreciation for all that it does. Taking care of your summer body. Yes, we need food. We need good nourishment. That can definitely help us take care of each of our summer bodies. It also can be helpful to take care of our summer in a way simply by wearing clothing that feels good to us. As seasons change, clothing styles change as well. You might not feel as comfortable with some of them. That's okay. Go through your closet, kind of check out some consignment stores if you need to purchase new clothing that fits your body right now, because that's the most important thing. If you're trying to wear clothing that maybe doesn't make you feel good, then it's going to be a struggle for you to really appreciate summer and go out and do all the things that you want to do. And so having some clothing, again, regardless of the size, sizes do not matter. Whatever feels good on you should be the most and the biggest priority for you. Again, remember, your body is ready for summer when it's summer and you have a body. That's all that we need to have a summer body. Also, remember that all bodies are good bodies, regardless of what we look like, and you don't really need abs to be fab. Okay, summer movement. So what I love most about the changing of the seasons that we have here in Iowa is it allows us to experience different types of movement or activity outdoors. I enjoy that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, and that's okay. But when thinking about movement, I often have students come to me and say, oh, I don't really like exercise classes. I'm not like, I get intimidated by the gym. And that's very valid, but it's also not the only type of movement. So I'm thinking about movement. Movement should make you feel energized. Moving your body should bring you joy. It should also feel good, right? Our bodies are made to move. We have joints for a reason. We can walk for a reason. We can do all these things for a reason. Our bodies are made to do that. And so if it feels bad, if it hurts, if you don't enjoy it, if you feel like movement is that you're using it more as a punishment instead of something that brings you joy, reach out to some folks. You can reach out to me, reach out to other people on campus to help you learn how to bring some of that enjoyment back to movement and physical activity. What does joyful movement mean? Again, we kind of talked about earlier, and I mentioned that bodies are made to move, right? That's why we have joints. That's why we have knees. That's why we have hips, those ball and socket joints that help us to move. Movement is also, yes, it's part of a healthy lifestyle, and it helps us to feel more confident in our bodies. But again, movement doesn't have to be siloed. It doesn't have to be one thing. And so choose what way your summer body enjoys to move. Movement does include walking, running, a workout class, maybe like resistance or like weight training, flexibility practices like yoga, Tai Chi, bar, any of that, or even like a sporting event or intramural. But movement also is different water sports. Maybe you like to kayak or stand-up paddleboard. Maybe you're one of those individuals who just likes to rollerblade all around the bike trails around here. Or maybe you're one who likes to just go on different hikes. Maybe you like to swim. Maybe you like to walk the dog. Maybe you like to play frisbee. That is also all different kinds of movement as well. Or try something new. Try going back to elementary school and jumping rope, or try geocaching around town, an obstacle course, making your own and then competing with friends. I mentioned frisbee earlier, but what about frisbee golf? Have you tried that? Or even just playing catch with a friend. There are so many other ways to move your body. Again, with jumping rope, thinking, what did you enjoy back in elementary school? What kind of play did you have then? And maybe try that out again too. There are all sorts of different ways to try something new, try some other kind of movement that maybe you haven't tried recently. It's worth a shot to try it again. So, kind of wrapping it up here, this is one of my favorite and final quotes. When the joy goes out of eating, nutrition suffers. It's by Ellen Satter, who's a registered dietitian. And I firmly appreciate this quote so much because it's so true. When the joy goes out of food and out of eating, then it kind of makes us sad because we're not truly enjoying what we're eating and what we're consuming then. It's also, I think of it similarly to movement as well. Are we actually enjoying moving our bodies? Do we feel good in it? And if we don't, then is it really a benefit if we don't enjoy it? Try to find something that brings you joy and helps you to be active and helps you to nourish your body, because that's where we can really thrive. Okay, thank you all so much for listening in today. Again, my name is Kallen. You can reach out to me anytime. I'm the ISU Dining Dietitian. And then also follow me on Instagram at ISU Dining RD and check out all of my plates that I eat for lunch every day. And so it can give you a better idea of how to build your meals from our food in our dining halls. Okay, Sierra, how are we doing in terms of the discussion, the chat, the Q&A, and let's get going on that.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Kallen. All right, so we've got some questions here. Feel free to leave more in the chat if you're wanting to ask some questions. So the first question is a bit of a three-parter, so let me know if you want me to repeat any of these.
Okay.
So the first one is, how can somebody eat more sustainably in the dining centers? And then, do the dining centers cook with in-season foods? And where do they purchase their food? So you did talk a little bit about where they purchase with chicken and stuff like that. So maybe if you want to just answer the first two, that would be good.
Yeah, great. Okay, so the first one was how can you eat more sustainably in the dining center? Okay, cool. So in terms of eating more sustainably in the dining center, know that on our part, on the staff part, we forecast, we compost all foods from during food prep. We also compost the leftovers and napkins that you have on your plates on the tray line. We compost all of that as well. So already you're being pretty sustainable just by eating in our dining centers and by unknowingly composting your food. So rock on, that's awesome. You're already doing it. With that, we also do want to minimize any food waste that we might have. And so kind of my first suggestion for maybe eating more sustainably is checking out the menu on different places that you might want to eat first. That can give you a little bit of a better idea of what's on the menu, what's actually there. So when you get to the location, you can just go to the venue that you want the food from, get it, and then go and sit down. Simply because I know we all have had a couple of times where we go to a venue and we're like, oh, this looks super, super good. And then we go to the next venue and we're like, oh, dang, this also looks really good. Then we go to the other venue and we're like, but I also want that. And then pretty soon we end up with like, 3 plates in front of us of like a full meal on each plate, which if that's how much you're eating and that's how much you're hungry for, awesome, that's okay. But we also don't want students taking all of that extra food because then it just goes to that food waste. And so what I would encourage you to do, kind of pre-plan a little bit ahead of time, just so that we don't have that extra food waste that could be going to minimizing that a little bit. So thinking about that the next time that you are in the dining centers. But again, leave food on your plate because we compost it anyways. And then Sierra, you mentioned the next parts to that question was about locally eating or local producers.
Do the dining centers cook with in-season foods?
Great question. Yes. Does the dining centers cook with in-season foods? More commonly, we get a lot of our more in-season foods towards the beginning of the fall semester, specifically our in-season seasonal produce options. And the simple reason for that is because that's when they are in season. Here in Iowa, we do go by the seasons. It's more difficult for our local producers to produce as much bulk of an item that we need year round. So we typically go through them pretty quickly. But our green peppers in the fall, again, they come from the Horticulture Research Station. Same thing with our onions. Onions store a little bit longer, but we do go through them quite quickly. Those are just a couple of examples of foods that we do purchase locally. We also get grape tomatoes locally. That's from a greenhouse near Boone. We also get apples locally. I mentioned Deal's Orchard, as well as from the Horticulture Research Station. Other tomatoes we also get locally, as well as fresh basil that we use in quite a few different items. Those are also more seasonal and local at the same time.
I kind of have a question too that just kind of popped up. Do you know if the Iowa State Horticulture Research Center, do they produce all year round?
They do not have a greenhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are land. They have a huge farm. Have you ever been out there, Sierra?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I believe that they have some things that are in the greenhouse to like start things up, but it's really outdoors. And so it's more so the like what is the outdoor crops that are out there. I do remember last year they said that they were starting, there was some research going on at the Horticulture Research Station with bees, with honeybees, and with making their own honey. So that potentially might be something a little bit more depending on that like season. I'm not exactly sure on seasonality for honey and for honeybees just because of the cold winter. But that's definitely something that, yeah, that I'll check up on because I'm also interested in that as well.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so our next question is kind of related to, diet culture, summer bodies, stuff like that.
Okay.
So, typically during summertime, there are magazines that, push more towards getting fad diets out there and weight loss and stuff like that. So this question is, what are your tips for challenging that diet culture that we see a lot of times in the summer months?
That's a great question. So yes, we live in a culture, our environment that is obsessed with diets and look this way, not that way, eat this, not that. And it is just, it's not healthy for any of us. And so it does usually pick up speed the closer we get to like spring break and summer because of like summer bodies and beach bodies. Again, just like it we mentioned earlier, like your body is summer ready when it's summer and you have a body. So one way to kind of push back against maybe that pressure for any kind of food restriction or fad diet or something like that is just to surround yourself with a great group of friends and a great group of people. And again, looking inside and knowing that you are enough. Your body is perfect just how it is. Again, our bodies, the majority of our body size and shape and even weight is largely genetic. And so the more that we try to control that, the more that the likelihood for developing disordered eating habits or eating disorder is more likely. And so if you are struggling at all with that, feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to another dietitian, and we can definitely help you work through some of these things. But know that regardless of your body size, shape, or weight, you can still be healthy. Healthy does not have a look. Healthy is what's inside and is all about balance and about total well-being. And so if you are really struggling with some of these pressures to give into diet culture or give into some sort of restrictive or controlling eating pattern, yeah, reach out to me. I would be happy to help. If you are home this summer, try and find another local dietitian that you might be able to help with more more independently when you're there during summertime. If you have questions or need help with that, I can also help get you connected to more local resources.
Okay, so this next question is also a few parts, and it's related to hydration. So,
Okay.
how much of water should be consumed from drinks only? And then, is it okay to get a large percentage of your water from foods?
Oh, good question. In general, again, we get hydration from both beverages as well as foods. We typically get more from beverages, from, water, simply because the foods that water is more prominent in, again, like soups, different fruits, especially have high water content. Watermelon is predominantly water. Other different like citrus type fruits. But even with that, really the goal is to bring it back to you. Kind of with intuitive eating, listening to your own, sorry, I just like hit my computer. Like intuitive eating, and trusting your body's own natural hunger and fullness cues. We also have intuitive thirst. We can tell when we're thirsty. We can tell when we need a drink of water. We can tell all of these things. And so even though we have those recommendations of about, the 8 ounce glasses of water per day, It's all individualized. And so listening to your body, again, going through some of those signs that we talked through about possible signs of dehydration. Are you experiencing any of those? If you are, maybe increase a little bit of your water intake and see what happens. Are you feeling a little bit better? Do you have less headaches? Do you not feel like your mouth is super dry all the time or your tongue is dry all the time? There are ways that you can be more intuitive with your body and listening to it and recognizing, I should probably drink some more water to help out with that.
Okay, so this last question is also related to hydration and electrolytes and stuff like that. So under what conditions would you recommend consuming a sports drink versus regular, just plain water?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of really the main differences in a sports drink compared to regular water, unless you are like for the average person, unless you are like a athlete here in college, like for the NCAA or like for sports clubs, and undergoing those really hard workouts. In general, having regular water is totally fine, and you won't need a sports drink to replace all of those electrolytes unless you are really working out. Or if you're outside for an extended period of time on a really hot day in the summer, just because the likelihood of dehydration is higher during those peak summertime hours. In general, regular water should be totally fine for you. If you are someone who prefers having flavor in your beverage, and that's maybe one reason why you gravitate more towards sports drinks, that's okay. Don't only have sports drinks simply because we don't need all of that extra electrolytes in our body. We store them, but not super well. Once we like reach the max, then we just get rid of it. And so know that I would encourage anyone to really try and working on plain water by itself. But if you are having an intense workout, yes, then definitely have a sports drink every once in a while. Or if you have low blood pressure, sometimes having a little bit more higher electrolytes, that potassium, that sodium can help to increase some of that blood pressure a little bit more. But also maybe try other ways to flavor your water. I mentioned infusing water with fresh fruit or with different herbs that can just bring a little bit extra flavor to the water and make it a little bit more exciting and not as boring to drink if you find water a little bit boring.
All right, so I don't see any more questions in the chat, but if you want to wait around for a little bit just to see or
yeah, let's wait for a minute or two.
Okay, sounds good.
Anything else, Sierra? Anything else pop up?
Nope, nothing's popping up. I think we're good to wrap up.
Okay, awesome. Well, again, everyone, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. This will be our last presentation for the semester since it's the end of April, but we will start back up in the fall in September. So if you've enjoyed these, if you have questions or different ideas on what to include in the fall, reach out, let us know. Again, these presentations, the nutritional download is for you. It's to help answer some of these questions or confusion related to food, nutrition, eating in the dining halls, and really, again, making sure that you have what you need to start off and help yourself through college on the right foot in terms of creating balanced meals and balanced plates. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if there's any other questions that you have later on, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you. Bye.